Chapter 226, A Path Beyond Senjutsu. Fujin analyzed the pros and cons of keeping his summon a secret. Finally, he decided, the winged saber-tooths will be my main summon. There isn't much point in keeping them a secret as it will get out eventually. Of course, I should keep this card hidden until I can, but there is no need to keep it hidden from the ones I can trust. Instead, I should probably take the initiative to mention this to Hiruzen. While it is good news that they want to teach me senjutsu, they definitely have some ulterior motives. Though my gut tells me that their ultimate motives won't be harmful to me, and even if it is, they won't do anything to me until I learn senjutsu. It would be better to get some information from Hiruzen. If it is harmful, then he could warn me and help me terminate the contract or help me scheme against them. If it is beneficial, then Hiruzen might look more favorably towards me, as these saber-tooths are quite strong and could increase Konoha's strength considerably. Also, I could use Ryu's dialogue and add some false news to maybe get a few elemental crystals from Hiruzen. For instance, instead of telling him about their methods and resources to strengthen me, I could tell him that they will teach me senjutsu only if I reach the required strength. Fujin made a few plans until he was satisfied and went to sleep after eating dinner. Meanwhile, at the peak of Mount Mutki, Ryu appeared in front of Murasaka. Murasaka looked at him and said, "I am surprised that you agreed so readily. Is the boy that impressive?" Ryu replied, "You didn't see him connect to nature, great-grandmother. It was almost instinctual to him. He didn't even need 15 minutes to sense nature energy and managed to maintain that state for 2 hours. I had to keep flying around the mountain for over an hour to not disturb him. Among the summoners we contracted in the last 400 years, he is our best shot." Murasaka sighed and asked, "Are you still hoping that the prophecy your grandfather had, comes true?" Ryu didn't answer her question and instead said, 500 years ago, you mastered nature energy and helped our pride advance to the next level. However, we haven't made any progress since then. Grandfather and Grand-Uncle Genji believed that we will advance to the next level with the help of a human who could learn our senjutsu. I'd rather believe it instead of wasting away hundreds of years pointlessly." Murasaka looked at Ryu, however, he didn't budge. She sighed and said, "Do whatever you want." Ryu nodded and left. Murasaka saw him leaving the mountain as her memories surfaced. 4 children, 7 grandchildren, and 19 great-grandchildren of mine have died as a result of that prophecy. Some sacrificed themselves to protect the human they chose, while some were killed by the betrayal of the very human they raised, and one ingrate even invaded our sacred lands. I hope you don't join them, Ryu." She closed her eyes and went back to meditating. A very strong chakra could be seen around her. A chakra that brightened the peak of Mount Mutki and would have been visible from a long distance if the peak wasn't hidden above the clouds. The next day, Fujin was standing outside a building. It was Konoha's hospital. He entered it and approached the lady sitting in the reception. She looked at Fujin and greeted him with a smile. "Fujin-kun, who are you here to visit? Or are you injured?" Fujin smiled back at her. He had been a rather common face in the hospital. He especially became well known when Renjiro brought his injured and unconscious body to the hospital on his shoulder multiple times in a single month. He replied, "I am fine and haven't come to visit anyone, Akemi-san. I have come here to register for medical ninja training." Akemi was surprised. She asked, "You want to become a medical ninja?" Fujin replied, "No, I just want to learn the basic healing jutsu so that I can help my teammates if we don't have a medical ninja with us." Akemi replied, "Oh. All right. Wait a minute." Akemi wasn't surprised by Fujin's request. Quite a few ninjas would show up for learning the mystical palm jutsu without bothering to learn the remaining knowledge needed to become a medical ninja. Konoha had a system in place for ninjas like these. Though they would prefer for more ninjas to become a proper and capable medical ninja, very few had the interest, talent, and patience to become one. After all, it would require years or even a decade to become a good medical ninja. So Hiruzen, with Tsunade's assistance, had created a proper plan to teach such ninjas. A lot of clans and civilian ninjas benefited immensely from this program. The former Uchiha clan had benefited the most from this system. Their Sharinans could easily copy the mystical palm jutsu. They just needed some guidance to master that jutsu and could provide a better healing option on the front lines where medical ninjas wouldn't be available. Similarly, the Hyuga clan also benefited from this system. Their Byakugan and fine chakra control assisted in being much superior to others who learned this jutsu. So some Hyugas learned this jutsu and became the perfect support for any squad with their scouting and healing capabilities while being perfectly capable of defending themselves. Akemi opened a file and wrote Fujin's name in a list that already had 23 other names. She said, "A training session for newbies will be held 3 days from now at noon. I have registered you. So just show up and join the class." Fujin noted the date and thanked her. "Thank you, Akemi-san." Fujin left the hospital thinking, 3 days. Should I train a jutsu or should I train with summons? Suddenly he heard, "Fujin." Fujin turned to his right. Heitake Takayo walked towards him and asked, "Where were you yesterday evening? We tried finding you without any success." Fujin replied, "I was doing some special training. Anyways, what's up?" Takayo looked at Fujin but didn't get any clues from him. He said, "Well, it's good that you are safe. Lord Hokage wants to meet you. So meet him right away." Fujin nodded and said, "All right. Thank you for passing the message." Fujin flickered towards the Hokage building. He entered and knocked on the door. Hiruzen invited him. Fujin entered and said, "I met Takayo-san outside the hospital. He said you wanted to meet me, Grandpa." Hiruzen looked at him and asked, "Hospital? Are you injured?" Fujin shook his head and answered, "No, I am planning to learn mystical palm jutsu. So I went to register myself." He put up a sad expression and said, "If a mission goes bad, I want to have the capability of at least healing my teammates a bit." Hiruzen knew that Fujin was referring to his previous mission indirectly as he couldn't say it out loud. He couldn't heal any injuries on Tomatsu for hours. His features softened. He said, "I sent a couple of messengers to you last evening, but they couldn't find you. I was worried that someone tried to claim your bounty." Fujin furrowed his brows and asked, "Didn't you say that there is no danger in Konoha and that no one has ever claimed a bounty before?" Hiruzen coughed and said, "I did. But there can always be a first time." Fujin watched Hiruzen with a deadpan expression. He thought, this old fox is unbelievable. Hiruzen changed the subject and asked, "Anyways, where were you?" Fujin replied, "I was trying to find a summon." Hiruzen's eyes widened. He immediately scolded, "Why did you try it on your own? That is very dangerous." Fujin nodded and said, "Yeah. You don't need to tell me, Grandpa. It was very scary. I had to face a wolf tide and even saw gigantic whales." Hiruzen squinted his eyes and asked, "You tried it more than once?" Fujin nodded and said, "Yeah. It was so scary that I wanted to stop. But I couldn't help but think about your words and my teammates and kept going until I succeeded." Hiruzen's features softened. He thought, though it was risky and he is usually greedy, the will of fire burns bright in him. As long as he can grow safely for 2 to 3 more years, he can fulfill the gap left by Tomatsu's squad by himself. Hiruzen said, "It's good that you managed to get it done. Who did you sign the contract with?" Fujin answered, "They are winged saber-tooths." "Have you heard about them, Grandpa?" Hiruzen thought for a bit before shaking his head. He replied, "I haven't heard about anyone having these summons." "How do they look and how strong are they?" Fujin replied, "They look like a normal saber-tooth, only many times larger. Their wings are hidden along their fur, so they are hard to spot normally. They can fly very well. As for their strength, they are very strong. The one I met could have probably defeated me with ease. Though I can't say for sure as I never fought." Hiruzen analyzed, "I don't recall seeing any such summons or even reading about them. I guess it must be a tribe that rarely signs contracts." From what Fujin described, their strongest fighters should be at elite jounin level or just stronger than that, which is quite good but nothing exceptional. He looked at Fujin and concluded, "Oh well, Renjiro wasn't planning to hand him his sloth summon. Since he managed to get a contract with his own strength, I can't complain. If he passes the contract to the next generation, then Fujin would have contributed a lot to the village." He said, "I don't know anything about them, Fujin. But good work." Chapter 227, Swords. Hiruzen lifted a couple of boxes from under his desk and placed them on his desk and said, "This arrived yesterday evening. I called you as I believed that you would want it right away." Fujin observed the boxes. His attention was immediately drawn to their ornate designs. Their lids were carved with intricate patterns of dragons and tigers. And it was made from a wood that had an ancient feeling to it. Fujin realized and quickly exclaimed, "My swords are here." Hiruzen nodded and said, "Fuji arrived here from the land of iron yesterday." Fujin moved forward and lifted one of the lids to see a soft, plush lining that cradled his sword. He grabbed the sheath and picked up his sword. The sheath was an art in itself. Swirling designs were etched into its glossy black lacquer. As Fujin ran his fingers along the sheath, he felt the satisfying smoothness of the fine craftsmanship. Finally, he drew out the sword. The blade was long and thin with a very slight curve to it. Both its edges were very sharp. When the light fell on it, it shimmered with a greenish hue that caught Fujin's eye. The hilt was made of polished green jade that fit comfortably in Fujin's hands. Fujin moved the sword around. It felt very light and almost as if it was an extension of his arm. A smile appeared on his face as chakra began flowing along the blade. He muttered, "The chakra flow along this blade is so smooth." Fujin's chakra flowed through the blade without any obstruction. It was charged with wind chakra almost instantaneously. Fujin had no doubts that if he swung his sword, the entire Hokage building would collapse. Hiruzen smiled and said, "The sword has some chakra metal that assists in wind chakra flow. Very few will be able to stop your sword in the future. Of course, do be careful about them. The swords are very expensive and could get some unwanted attention." Fujin replied, "If they are greedy, they might try to get my head first. But I will keep it in mind, Grandpa." Fujin immediately began checking his other sword, leaving Hiruzen a bit awkward as he recalled that Fujin's head was worth more than those swords. The second sword was just as good as the first one. Fujin kept his sword back in the sheaths. Hiruzen instructed, "Keep the sheaths and boxes properly. The blacksmiths attach a lot of importance to making them. So destroying them or throwing them away is seen as an insult by them. Also, the sheath is made of special materials which help preserve the chakra metal properties in the sword. So when you don't use them, keep them in their sheaths. Fujin replied, I didn't know about that. But seeing how well the sheath and the box are made, I guess it makes sense. I'll store them properly. Hiruzen smiled and said, that is all. There is still some time before I invite you to Umbu. Use it to master mystical palm and create a bond and develop teamwork with your summons. Fujin nodded and left the room. He thought, I guess Ryu wasn't kidding when he said that the younger ones hadn't ever seen a human. It should have been a long time since they had a summoner. Kinda sucks. I was hoping that Hiruzen knew how impressive they were and used that fact to get some wind crystals. Anyways, since he doesn't know, I doubt he could warn me about their plans. On the plus side, I will be able to keep my sage training a secret. If I do master it, my strength will grow phenomenally. And since there is no way to sense it unless I use it, it will become my strongest ace in the hole. A smile formed on his face as he wondered who would fall prey to this hidden card. Of course, that would be a long time away and would need a lot of hard work and perhaps some luck to achieve. Fujin returned home. 2 symbols glowed on his bracers and his old swords appeared. Fujin calculated, Hiruzen asked me to keep the new swords in their sheaths. I will have to modify the storage seal so that my new swords fit. That isn't an issue. The problem is that I have to store them with their sheaths. So when I summon the sword, I will get the sword with the sheath instead of just the sword. And while that may look cool, it will be very inefficient. So what to do? Fujin analyzed a lot and began recalling all the seals he had learned. After a few minutes, he prepared a plan that would allow him to store the swords in the sheaths but summon just the swords. However, before he could work on it, he had an idea. Fujin thought, wait a minute. Though Umbu ninjas wear a mask to hide their identity, I doubt that it would be 100% effective. After all, every ninja has unique features. Someone like Kakashi is very easy to identify despite his Umbu mask. So it's safe to assume that every village will try to keep information about the Umbu ninjas of enemy villages. If that is the case, then I should give them something to identify me with myself instead of them figuring out something I can't change and don't know. A mischievous smile appeared on Fujin's face as he thought of a plan to mess with the minds of the ones that might want to target him in the future. He stored the new swords in a scroll and kept the old swords back in his bracers. He left his house and went to the training ground. He bit his thumb and weaved a few hand signs and slammed his right palm on the ground. Summoning Jutsu. Smoke appeared in front of Fujin. In the smoke, the silhouette of a 3-meter-tall saber-tooth was visible. Meanwhile, Fujin's breath became heavy. He was alarmed, damn. A single summoning jutsu exhausted more than 40% of my chakra. The smoke dispersed showing Goro. He looked at Fujin and exclaimed in joy, I knew it. I knew it. I dared my brothers to make a bet with me that you would summon me first. They didn't even dare to accept my bet. Ha 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 ha. Fujin watched with a deadpan expression. He sighed in his mind, looks like this jutsu is a waste until I can summon his brothers. Goro asked, so, why did you summon me? Tell me whose ass you want to be bitten? You can rely on me 100%. Fujin replied, sure I can. But I am not facing any enemy. I just want to see how a great winged saber-tooth like you fights. And I want to build good teamwork between us. Goro answered with a bit less excitement in his voice, oh, that sounds boring. But since you can see how great I am, I will show you. Fujin said, I am not sure how much we can fly here. Can you summon me to your mountain? We can experiment there. Goro nodded, all right, I will see you in a minute. He disappeared. Fujin sighed, did he fall on his head as a child or did Ryu spoil him rotten for him to develop such a personality? I hope he fights well. Otherwise, it'd be completely hopeless. Fujin suddenly disappeared from the training ground and appeared at Mount Mutki in front of Goro. Fujin's sudden appearance was noticed by a few winged saber-tooths but they ignored him. Goro asked, so, what do you want to see first? Fujin looked around him. He was in a small cave with just Goro. He said, I want to see how a winged saber-tooth fights. Then, I can see how we can work together. Goro said, all right, climb on my back. Fujin climbed on his back. Goro said, hold tight. He spread his wings and jumped out of the cave. He flapped his wings a few times and began flying at a very fast speed. Chakra gathered in Fujin's eyes to keep them safe from the strong winds. Goro said with pride, the first thing you should know about us is that we fly very fast. Even most of the birds can't keep up with us. That is especially true for Kaito. He loves flying. He can fly as fast as lightning and can keep that speed up for days. Fujin was surprised. He analyzed, speed of lightning is unrealistic. But if I assume that he flies twice as fast as Goro and can maintain that speed for hours, then he would be a very good aid in escaping. Chapter 228, The Abilities of a Winged Saber-tooth. Goro moved towards a boulder on the huge mountain. He said, this should be a no-brainer, but we also have very high strength. He raised his paw and brought it down on the boulder with a lot of force. His paw split the boulder into two and turned a lot of it into dust. Fujin wasn't surprised. He expected such physical prowess from them. Goro said, see. How I turned it into dust with a wave of my paw. That's how strong I am. Fujin replied, yeah, that is very strong. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of it. Goro laughed, of course, you wouldn't. I could bite that stone too, but I don't want dust and soil in my mouth. Fujin said, it's fine. I can guess what a bite from you can do. Show me your other skills. Goro said, cool. He flapped his wings and moved away from the mountain and said, watch. This is the skill that makes us the apex predators. Goro's body suddenly became still. Chakra gathered on his wings. Fujin sensed it and was surprised, nature chakra? Even the younger ones can use senjutsu. Goro flapped his wings again. This time, he didn't move. Instead, very strong winds flew downwards. Fujin was surprised. He analyzed, that attack is stronger than my supercharged infinite breakthrough. And at least a few times stronger. Goro chuckled, are you shocked? You are shocked, right? If I use this attack on animals on land, all of them will die. Even if they survive, they will be injured. And even if they are strong enough to resist, I can just fly away. Ha 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 ha. If anyone else heard Goro's words, they might feel contempt for his attitude. However, Fujin wasn't one of them. He agreed with Goro's strategy wholeheartedly. In Fujin's books, other than winning a war without fighting, the best way to fight was to maintain distance and keep attacking the enemy without allowing the enemy to attack back. And if the enemy is stronger, he can always run away and turn the fight into a game of tag. It was why Fujin learned so many jutsus that allowed him to hide and escape. Fujin thought, looks like I was hasty. He is good. Goro said, in addition, we can also do this. He began gathering chakra in his throat. He looked up and fired a beam made of wind. The beam hit the cloud and created a huge hole in it. Fujin observed the wind beam carefully. His eyes widened as he noticed how the beam worked. He couldn't help but mutter, "Incredible." Goro was surprised. He looked back at Fujin and asked, "Did you understand what happened?" Fujin looked at Goro. He realized that Goro's breath had gotten heavier. He thought, "It seems like the attack uses a lot of chakra." Fujin nodded, "Yeah. Though it seemed like a normal beam of wind, it is instead made of incredibly sharp winds. The inside of the beam is basically like a meat grinder. If anyone were to be hit by it, I doubt any flesh would be left on their bones." Goro exclaimed, "Wow. Father wasn't kidding when he said that your affinity to wind is very strong. And you are right. This is my most devastating attack. It is also the signature attack of our pride. We call it the wind breath or the breath of wind. The only way to survive it is if the opponent has a very tough body that can't be cut with my winds. But I haven't met any such opponents yet, ha ha ha. Even if someone has tough skin, they still have vulnerable parts like eyes, nose, and ears." Fujin wondered, "Will I be able to withstand the attack with iron skin? I should test it later with my clones. Regardless, this attack is very dangerous. If I can learn it, I can use it like a cheap version of dust release. I can recall very few ninjas who could defend against this attack." Goro interrupted Fujin's thoughts and said, "In addition, we also have some other moves? Like?" He gathered chakra into his throat again and launched a ball of wind into the clouds. The attack left a small hole in the clouds. Fujin noticed, "It is very similar to my vacuum cannon except for the fact that there is no vacuum core. However, its destructive power won't be much weaker than my vacuum cannon due to the amount of chakra he put into it." Goro said, "This is our air bullet. We use it against weaker opponents as it doesn't need much chakra." Fujin said, "That is still quite powerful. What else do you have?" Goro answered, "Well, this is most of our traditional moves. Our fights usually involve us attacking with these attacks from a distance or using our strong bodies to crush our enemies. Some in the pride do make some of their personal moves or master another element, but I am still too young to learn them." Fujin quickly asked, "I see. How old are you?" Fujin was very interested in knowing the answer. After all, animals and humans had quite different growth stages and lifespans. Goro answered in a smug voice, "I am one of the youngest in my pride and still one of the most reliable and strongest. I am only 39 years old." Fujin was stunned. He thought in disbelief, "He is 39 years old? From the way he talked, I assumed he was 39 months old." Goro noticed that Fujin was speechless. He looked back and asked, "You can't believe how young I am, right? Seeing my strength, I bet you thought I am some 300 years old monster, right?" Ha ha ha. Fujin was left speechless. Though he had been very polite so far and praised Goro a few times to fan his ego so that he could get along better, he wasn't sure what he could say without being insulting. Luckily, Goro changed the subject. "Now that you have seen what I can do, what ideas did you come up with for cooperation and teamwork?" Fujin became serious and said, "I haven't thought of much. Like you, I also specialize in wind manipulation. The only idea I had so far is launching my attacks at the same time as you to double our power or launching them alternatingly to double our attack frequency." Goro looked at Fujin suspiciously and asked, "Do you think that your wind attacks are as strong as mine?" Fujin replied, "Your wind breath is stronger than anything I can do right now. But others, I can amplify with my own attacks. For instance, Fujin built up around 15% of his chakra and looked above. Wind Release, Infinite Breakthrough Jutsu. He released the supercharged jutsu at the clouds above them. Goro observed and commented, "Wow. That was good. Not as strong as mine, but good nonetheless." Fujin didn't answer and used another jutsu. Wind Release, Air Bullet Jutsu. He fired 15 air bullets. Goro said, "Not bad. They are much smaller in size, but the quantity is go." His eyes suddenly went wide open in shock. Fujin swung his sword and released a sword wave that split the clouds into two for over 100 meters. Goro exclaimed, "That was fucking good. You are strong." Fujin said, "I also have techniques to pierce into the strongest armor. So in case we encounter someone on whom your wind breath doesn't work, I could create openings in their defenses and let you kill them with ease. But, though it seems strong, a combination of two wind users won't be very good. I will learn a few fire attacks so that we could use a fire-wind combination attack." Goro said, "I agree. Not to mention, your chakra reserves took a big hit when you summoned me. That said, I am not sure how good a fire-wind combination attack will be." Fujin replied, "It'll be awesome. I have already tried it with others who can spit fire. But yeah, you are right. Summoning you consumed more than 40% of my chakra. If I summon you in a fight, I'll have very little chakra left. So you will have to do the majority of the fighting." Goro grinned and said, "As I said earlier, don't worry about it and leave everything to me." Ha 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 ha. Fujin sighed at his eccentricities but didn't say anything. After all, it was a good thing that Goro was willing to fight for him and that he seemed to be a very competent fighter. Fujin thought, though Ryu said that my chakra growth will slow down, it is still growing at a considerable rate. In a year, it should grow sufficiently to at least make summoning Goro easier on my chakra reserves. Fujin and Goro tried a few combination attacks until Fujin ran out of chakra. Goro ended his reverse summoning and Fujin returned back to Konoha. Chapter 229, Mystical Palm Jutsu. For the next couple of days, Fujin trained with Goro on Mount Mutki to improve their coordination. They first tried their moves on nearby mountains. When they got comfortable, they found nearby animals that Goro used to fight and began hunting. Finally, the day for training mystical palm jutsu arrived. Fujin did his morning workout rituals and visited the hospital at noon. After asking, he entered the room where he would be taught. As soon as he did, 33 pairs of eyes landed on him. Fujin looked around. The room was very spacious. It had a huge blackboard on the opposite side of the entry door. It also had a long but thin indoor pool in the shape of an arc and curved tables lined up along its edge. A few fish swam in it. Fujin observed the other people in the room. He didn't recognize any of them. But a few of them recognized Fujin as they had seen him during the Chunin exams. However, before they could say anything, a bald guy entered the room and instructed loudly, "Take your seats, everyone. We don't have any time to waste." Fujin and the others who were standing took a seat while observing the instructor. He was completely bald and looked quite old. Two girls in their late teens entered the room and stood behind the instructor. The instructor walked to the front of the room and began writing on the blackboard. He said, "I am Yamanaka Yoshi. I will be teaching you the basics of mystical palm jutsu and guiding you until I am sure that you can perform it. The girls standing behind you are Hyuga Emi and Kurama Asuka. They are training to become medical ninjas and they will be monitoring your progress and clearing your doubts." He looked around the room and muttered, Just 34 are here. Looks like 2 didn't show up. He passed a sheet in the room and said, write your names on it. I will need it to keep track of your progress. He moved back to the blackboard and said, I will first explain to you the theory behind mystical palm jutsu. I will also tell you the advantages and disadvantages of it and tell you when to use it and when not to use it. Pay careful attention because if you use it when you shouldn't, you can kill your patient or force real medical nins to amputate them. His words made everyone in the room serious. Most of them were here because they wanted to help their teammates or themselves in case of a major injury. So worsening an injury was the last thing they would want to happen. For the next couple of hours, Yoshi kept giving his lecture. He also cleared any doubts anyone had. Fujin paid careful attention and took some notes down alongside others in the room. When he stopped, the room sighed in relief. None of the people here were as young as Fujin. It had been years since they had to sit in the academy and hear lectures. Yoshi said, now that I have explained everything to you and cleared your doubts, we will begin hands-on training. But before we begin, we will be splitting the room into 2. As I had said earlier, mystical palm requires very precise chakra control. So the ones who are confident in their chakra control, walk towards the tables. The others keep sitting where you are. Fujin was very confident in his chakra control. He got up and moved towards the tables. So did 11 other people. The 2 assistants also moved next to Yoshi. Hayagami was holding a rather thick scroll. She laid it on the table and opened it a bit until a seal could be seen in the scroll. Yoshi walked in front of it and made a hand sign. A fish popped up in the seal. He said, this storage scroll has 100 storage seals with 100 injured fishes in it. We will be using them to test your jutsu. He extended his right hand towards the fish. Green chakra appeared on his hand and began pouring into the fish. For the next 30 seconds, the fish didn't make any movements and kept laying as if it was dead. However, it soon began making small movements. In a minute, it jumped off the scroll and landed in the pool. Yoshi said with a smile, this is how you do it? No one in the room was surprised. After all, everyone had seen medical ninjas in action. Yoshi said, though this looks simple, it will take a long time for you to learn this. You first need to develop good chakra control and you will need 4 to 6 months after that to be able to heal the fish as I did. You will require another 6 months of training to be able to use this jutsu safely on ninjas. His words surprised everyone in the room. Fujin thought, almost 1 year for just mastering this basic jutsu. He couldn't help but mutter in his mind, it's just using our chakra to increase the body's natural healing. How tough can it be? Yoshi noticed the looks of skepticism on most of the trainees. However, he wasn't surprised. He scoffed in his mind, it's the same every month. They think that it is an easy jutsu that they will learn in a few days. Half of them won't even have the patience to dedicate enough time to this jutsu to master it. He looked at the 12 who had claimed that they had good chakra control and said, you try it first. Be careful about the amount of chakra you use. Hayagami and Kurama Asuka rolled the scroll until 12 seals were visible and summoned 12 fishes. Fujin and the rest stepped forward. Fujin observed his fish and observed, this fish almost looks dead. I wonder how they put fish in such a state. The seal looks similar to the one Uchiha Sare used to store the dead body. So it should have slowed time to preserve the fish in this state. He extended his palm towards the fish and began releasing an extremely tiny amount of chakra. The chakra touched the body of the fish and began entering it. Fujin frowned but stayed steady as he realized, my chakra isn't entering his body without any resistance. The fish's body is resisting my chakra, making healing tougher. In addition, if I increase power, it will probably destroy the fish's body instead of healing it. Fujin kept at it while releasing chakra as slowly as he could. However, even after 3 minutes, there wasn't any change in the fish. In the meantime, the other 11 were also trying. In under a minute, 4 fish were burnt enough to be safe for consumption. In the next minute, another 4 were burnt alive, while the remaining 3 couldn't insert their chakra into the fish. Yoshi's eyes moved on all 12 trainees before being glued to Fujin. He thought, not bad. He was able to insert some chakra into the fish without burning it. Fujin's attention was completely on the fish. He thought, at this rate, I don't think the fish will be healed today. I should increase the chakra. He did say that it will take 4 to 6 months to learn this. Burning one fish should be fine. Fujin slowly increased his chakra output for the next 30 seconds. As he did, he noticed that a fin moved. He immediately stopped increasing the chakra and maintained his current rate. However, in 10 seconds, he noticed that the skin had begun burning. He immediately lowered his chakra output. Yoshi's eyes widened in surprise. He thought, what chakra control? Even senior medical ninjas wouldn't be able to control their chakra this well every time. Despite lowering the chakra output, the fish's flesh was completely burnt. Fujin sighed and picked up the fish. He thought, I can't heal if it resists my chakra. Fujin felt someone staring at him. He looked to his right and saw Kurama Asuka staring at him. Chakra flowed through his hand as he properly cooked the fish and asked, are these fish safe to be eaten? Asuka snorted and swiped the fish off his hand and said, you are here to learn healing and not cooking. Fujin sighed, if I knew that there would be a 2-hour lecture, I'd have brought some snacks. Yoshi said, that's enough. Go back and sit and analyze where you went wrong. He looked towards the others and instructed, half of you come here and try healing the fish. 11 people got up and went to the table while Fujin and the rest took their seats. At the same time Emi and Asuka swapped the fishes. Yoshi arrived in front of Fujin and the rest who tried healing the fish. Chapter 230, Yang Release. Yoshi asked, what have you learned from your failed attempt? One of the trainees said, we have to be very careful with the amount of chakra we put in the fish. If we use more chakra, it can very easily burn up. Another said, but if we use less chakra, the fish won't heal. Another couple of trainees gave similar answers before going quiet. The ones who hadn't attempted healing yet paid attention as they would soon face the same troubles. Yoshi looked at Fujin and asked, anything else? Fujin wasn't planning to answer as he expected the instructor to explain the obstacle he faced regardless of his answer. But noticing his gaze, Fujin answered, the fish's body resists our chakra. So very little chakra is actually used to heal the chakra. Yoshi nodded, you are right. In truth, all 12 of you face this issue. Otherwise, even with little chakra, you would have been able to heal a little bit, and with excessive chakra, you would have first noticed rapid healing before the fish got burned. He looked at Fujin and asked, can you guess why the fish resisted your chakra? Fujin answered, I am not sure. The only possible explanation I can come up with is that the fish's body instinctively resisted as my chakra was a foreign chakra. But if that is the case, healing would be abnormally difficult. Especially since the fish's body has minuscule chakra when compared with ninjas. Yoshi replied, your guess is wrong. There are 2 reasons why the fish's body instinctively rejects and resists your chakra. The first reason is that your chakra is too harsh. This type of chakra is very effective in combat, and hence all of you release this chakra instinctively. But, to heal, you need to release a very gentle and docile chakra. Only then it will be accepted by the patient's body and help heal their bodies. Fujin and the rest were surprised. Fujin asked, "What do you mean by gentle and docile chakra?" Yoshi answered, "It means that your chakra shouldn't threaten your patient's body and must feel soothing enough for them to not resist at all and instead allow it to do its work. You will need to eliminate any thoughts you have about killing or fighting before you heal a patient, and only then will you be able to heal. Of course, with practice, you will begin releasing a gentle chakra with ease. This is one of the main reasons why it takes so long to learn this jutsu. The second reason is that the chakra you used was attribute-less. Though it seems that medical ninjutsu doesn't need any nature manipulation, it isn't the case. You have to only utilize the yang aspect of chakra while using medical ninjutsu." Fujin's eyes widened. He thought, yang release? Medical ninjutsu requires yang release? Will we be trained in it? Fujin asked, "How can we only utilize the yang aspect of our chakra? Does it have similar training like the way we train for normal natures?" Yoshi shook his head and explained, "There is no way to train in yang release." He stopped and corrected himself, "No, that wouldn't be right to say. But the methods to train yang release are all secret techniques. So you won't be able to get access to them. As for mystical palm jutsu, you will employ the most basic method for utilizing yang nature. You will keep trying to heal fish until you are able to heal using only the yang aspect of your chakra. Once you find it, you should practice a few hundred times so that you master using that aspect." His words made everyone frown. After all, this was like finding a needle in a haystack. It would be difficult, time-consuming, and very luck-based. One ninja, who was from the Yamanaka clan as well, asked, "Can we perform medical ninjutsu using the yin aspect of our chakra?" Yoshi replied, "You can, but it is very difficult. Only senior medical ninjas can do so. And even then, we don't use it for healing external wounds. So focus on learning the yang aspect of the chakra." Yoshi looked at him and said, "However, if you know yin release, then learning basic yang release will be easier. You just have to avoid releasing the yin aspect of chakra." The ninja nodded and said, "Thank you for the tip, Yoshi-sensei." Yoshi looked at everyone and asked, "Do you have any more doubts?" No one asked any questions. So he returned to monitor the next batch of trainees. Fujin closed his eyes and began thinking about Yoshi's words, "So I will have to separate yang and yin aspects of the chakra to learn mystical palm jutsu. And here I thought that I'd get it down in no time. Still, this is good. Going by Yoshi's words, if I can learn yang release, I should also learn yin release. So my genjutsu would become stronger. I might be able to use it in battle against stronger enemies as well. That said, I guess making my chakra gentle first would be the challenge. To eliminate all thoughts of fighting and killing? That's tough. Or would have been tough if I hadn't just experienced it while traveling on Ryu's head. Maybe I should go back to him and see how I could experience it again. Though I guess that I should first take a look at what methods the village has. After all, I did feel that I was able to slightly heal the fish. It is probably why Yoshi asked me a question specifically. The remaining 22 people tried healing the fish and met with similar obstacles. Yoshi didn't see anyone noteworthy among them. So once everyone was done, he had a similar exchange with the remaining trainees. Once all doubts were resolved, he summarized, "As you have already tried healing, you would have realized the three major aspects of healing. The first is having a gentle chakra that doesn't make the patient feel any threat. The second is utilizing the yang aspect of your chakra. And the last is having very good chakra control. He looked at everyone and said, "That's it for today. We will meet again after 7 days at noon. In these 7 days, I want you to do only one thing. Meditate for as long as you can, and while meditating, think of happy thoughts or pleasant memories. The next time you attempt healing, you will try to think of those memories before healing." Fujin watched him with a dumbfounded look. He thought, what the hell? That's how you make your chakra gentle? You couldn't come with any other bullshit? And this is the village that has the most advanced medical ninjutsu? No wonder Hiruzen shot down Tsunade's proposal of training a lot of medical ninjas. Imagine thousands of ninjas thinking happy thoughts while the rest fought. Like Fujin, many were speechless by what Yoshi asked them to do. However, if they knew what Yoshi's thoughts were, they would begin cursing him right away. Yoshi enjoyed the look of disbelief on the trainees. He thought, making your chakra gentle isn't difficult. As they keep practicing this jutsu, their chakra will automatically become gentle and docile unless they keep getting angry or frustrated. But, since every one of them thinks that learning this jutsu is easy, I might as well have some fun with them. Just the thought of them meditating while having pleasant thoughts is hilarious. It'll be even more fun when they get annoyed as it won't work, ha ha ha. Yoshi dismissed everyone. When the room was empty, a smile appeared on Yoshi's face. Emi and Asuka sighed thinking, this old geezer is messing around once again. Fujin moved to Ichiraku while thinking, that old geezer was definitely messing with us when he said that. Something seemed off. Though I didn't sense a lie, he is a medical ninja from the Yamanaka clan. So he might be a good censor as well. It won't be difficult for him to lie without being sensed. That said, meditation in itself isn't bad. I should stabilize my mind by meditating for a few hours and eliminating all thoughts before I visit next week. More importantly, I should focus on the yang release. Fujin reached Ichiraku and ate while